Good morning, everyone. Let us please rise for the singing of the Philippine National Anthem. Please take your seats. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the REDREC Auditorium for this morning's World Expert Lecture Series. My name is Mark Lester Del Mundo Chico from the UPLB Media and Communication Office and the Department of Development Broadcasting and Telecommunication College of Development Communication, and I am your facilitator and your host for this morning. Thank you very much for coming over. Pwede ko bang malaman kung saang mga kolehiyo galing ang ating mga bisita ngayong umaga? I think may mga taga College of Arts and Sciences. Nasaan ang mga taga CAS? Ayan. How about mga taga DevCom? Bakit mas marami kayo? May taga iba pang college for sure joining us. Meron bang CAFs? CAFs, thank you. Che, SEAT, Engineering, sir, hi. VetMed, CFNR, taga-SEM. Nasaan ang mga taga-SEM? Marami pong salamat sa SEM for allowing us to use your venue this morning. Sino pang nakalimutan ko? Sana wala akong nakalimutan. SESAM? Of course, the College of Arts and Sciences of UP Diliman. Arts and Letters and Theater, ayan, grabe, ang dami-dami. At sa inyo pong lahat, no, maraming salamat po sa pagpunta. So this morning, we will experience the meeting, no? The meeting point of different disciplines in this lecture titled, Why Fusion? Between Theater and the Sciences, Interdisciplinarity of Pedagogy, Research, and Community Building. Before I continue with the program proper, allow me first to recognize the people who are joining us this morning. Of course, we are joined by no less than the one who made this happen, Professor Emeritus and former CAS Dean Asuncion K. Raimundo. Ma'am! We also have Professor Emeritus Dr. Merlin Mendioro. Our Director of the Institute of Biological Sciences, Dr. Jen Diaz. The Dean of Graduate School, Dr. Joma Rabahante. Our former Dean and a member of the Execom at Large, Dr. Zita Albacea, former. My favorite kachikahan sa Execom meeting. We also have former DIUM Chair, Dr. Norse Fahutagana. Our former OICA Director, Dr. Tet Arejola. We also have our guest from UP Diliman Information Office, Sir Andril Tiatco, and the chair of the UPLB Research Ethics Board, Mo Liangco. Ayan. To all my fellow faculty members, research, extension, and professional staff, and our administrative staff and students of UP Los Baños, our friends and guests, welcome to WELL's Expert Series, Why Fusion. We are very lucky because this morning we have a visiting research fellow from the Department of Development, Broadcasting, and Telecommunication, and the world expert of applied theater who will share with us his experiences and his pedagogy and work that connects the University of Winnipeg in Canada to the global practice of applied theater in the world, or the universe rather. His fellowship will center on ecological issues in oceans, lakes, and rivers, and how theater and performance research can mobilize community and global connections in responding to the climate crisis. This lecture is sponsored by the UP System Office of International Linkages under the World Expert Lecture Series, organized by the Institute of Biological Sciences, College of Arts and Sciences, Department of Development, Broadcasting, and Telecommunication, College of Development Communication, and the UPLB Media and Communication Office, Office of the Chancellor, supported by the supported by the College of Economics and Management. We are also live streaming over Radyo DZLB, ang Tinig ng Kaunlaran, which is celebrating its 61st anniversary this year. Palakpakan naman po natin itong mga opisinang ito. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our director of the UPLB Institute of Biological Sciences to welcome us all in this event. Please welcome Dr. Maria Jenaline Q. Diaz.
To our Professor Emeriti, Dr. Asuncion Raimundo and Dr. Merlin Mendioro, to AVP Mark Lester Chico, Dean Jomar, dear faculty and staff, and of course our dear students, a pleasant morning to all of you. So I'm standing in front of you on behalf of the College of Arts and Sciences Dean, Chrisline Piñol, who cannot attend today, but she sends her regret. So I was tasked to represent the college and also the Institute of Biological Sciences, which is one of the host units of this activity. It is indeed my great pleasure to welcome you all in this seminar on the fusion of theater and science, a unique gathering where creativity and curiosity converge. Today, we bring together two fields that may seem worlds apart. Science, which seeks to explain the world through logic and discovery, and theater, which seeks to illuminate the human experience through story and performance. Yet, when combined, I think these disciplines enrich each other in powerful ways. We can say that science gives theater new themes, metaphors, and stories to tell, while theater gives science new voices, forms, and audiences to reach. This fusion opens door to deeper understanding, empathy, and innovation, helping us not only to know more, but also to feel more deeply what knowledge means to our respective lives. As we listen to the seminar, let us keep in mind, open our minds, that we are not just exploring connections between two disciplines. We are exploring new ways to teach, to communicate, and to inspire. May today's conversation spark ideas that will bridge gaps, create dialogue, and ignite collaborations. Once again, welcome, and may this seminar be both thought-provoking and transformative. Thank you very much, and I forgot to mention, I would like to thank Dr. Dennis Gupa for coming back to UPLB and sharing his experience. Once again, good morning.
Thank you very much, Dr. Diaz. Okay. Before I introduce our next speaker who will share with us a very special message, allow me to share with you an anecdote, a story of how we met and how we came together. In 2000, nako, age reveal pala ito, wag ko na pala ikwento. In 2007, just before I graduated, I joined the Office of the Chancellor and I was tasked to do centennial events during the time for UP and UP Los Baños. At nandito po ang aking kasamahan noon na si Miss Emmy Mariveles ng Office of Alumni Relations. Palakpakan niyo po si Ate Emmy. Yan ang aking unang office mate. Yan, ang nagpatatag sa akin kasi grabe. Wow. So, and doon ko na-meet ang ating speaker, no, ang ating lecturer for this morning. And then so we did a lot of events, a lot of performances, etc. And then I left, did some PR in Makati, and then I was called to serve again in the university. So I joined CIRCA and UP Los Baños. And right after the project, because during that time we were meeting a lot of execo members, deans, etc. The then Dean of CAS, Dr. Asuncion K. Raimundo, asked me to join the faculty of College of Arts and Sciences. And because sabi niya nga patapos na nga raw yung project. Kaya lang, meron siyang isang maling ginawa. Maling ginawa raw talaga. Chinika niya sa Dean ng College of DevCom, si Dr. Ofi Torres. Sabi niya, Ofi, tapos na pala yung project, yung strategic review. So si Mark, pinagtuturo ko sa ComArts, sabi niyang ganun. Si Dean Ofi, sabi, ay hindi, magre-retire si Lolit Vega, former college secretary. Siya ang kukuhanin namin. I've been wanting to join ComArts then because I was a frustrated ComArts student. Yan yung first choice ko. Kaya lang hindi nga ako UPCAT qualifier. So, nung nag-transfer ako after taking computer engineering, napunta na ako sa DevCom. Sabi ko, ayoko na muna sa ComArts kasi hindi ako tinanggap niyan. Wow, may tampo pala. And then, ayun na nga. So, to cut the long story short, hindi ako tuloy na tuloy sa ComArts, sa CAS. Napunta ako sa DevCom kasi ichinika pa ni Ma'am kay Dean Ofi. So, naharang tuloy siya. But then again, I'm very happy because hindi naman nawala yung connection namin at patuloy kaming nagsasama-sama sa ngalan ng arts at ng sciences. And so this morning, I'm very happy to introduce to you the one who really started it all, the fusion of arts and sciences. Please welcome our Professor Emeritus, Dr. Asuncion K. Raimundo.
Good morning, UPLB. Good morning, taga-Diliman. Ayan, sinasabi ko si Mark, rineject ako. Kaya every time kami magkita, ikaw nag-reject sa akin. Anyway, the fusion of arts and sciences is not really new to me. I was introduced to it during my deanship decades ago, together with our former associate dean, Dr. Sita Albacea, who luckily is here with us also. At that time, I was invited to watch plays directed by our speaker today, Dr. Dennis Gupa, together with another faculty member, Prof. Regan Maikes, of the Department of Humanities. These productions creatively integrated science issues and involved collaborations with different departments. After staging several performances, they proposed a fusion of arts and sciences program, which we implemented and expanded through more productions. The initiative eventually earned university-level recognition and led to the establishment of the Makiling Performance Garden, MPG. Yung nandyan sa tabi, unfortunately, hindi na-maintain, which was built from the remains of the old chemistry building, damaged by fire. MPG then became home to some performances of Dennis and Reagan. Though Dennis left the university, and I retained my connections with the university through my appointment as Professor Emeritus, our paths crossed again during the pandemic when he invited me to his online production, Gossip with the Whales. I recommended its showing to the College of Arts and Sciences, but technical constraints prevented it. Still, our collaboration continued. We co-presented in a Microbiology Consortium of the Philippines webinar on arts and microbes, and co-authored a paper presented at the Philippine American Academy of Science and Engineering annual meeting, Pag-uugnay as a mode of interdisciplinary inquiry and collaboration in the fusion of arts and the sciences. I also pursued ways to bring Gossip with Whales to the university. And then I saw the light. I realized the light is Mark Chico, Director of Media and Communication, and now Assistant Vice President of Public Affairs. Sabi ko, ito na. May mangyayari na pag si Mark Chico ang aking itap. He arranged for the appointment of Dr. Gupa as a visiting researcher of the Department of Development Broadcasting and Telecommunications at the College of Development Communication. With funding being the next challenge, I tapped Professor Victor Tixon, he's there, over there, a marine biologist of IBS, to host Dr. Gupa under the World Expert Lecture Series program at the Office of the Institutional Linkages. And luckily, we got the grant. Additional support came from OICA through Director Lawrence Castillo and from other offices, which should be properly acknowledged by Director Chico. All these efforts have led us to this moment. Dr. Gupa's lecture today and his upcoming production, please watch this, The Wake of the Lake, The Roar of the Ocean, a theoretical interrogation of water memory, climate crisis, and stewardship. On the 27th, there will be 2 showings, 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. Let us make Dr. Gupa's visit truly meaningful by actively participating in these activities. We deeply appreciate his generosity and commitment in choosing to spend almost his entire summer here at UPLB. Since July, he has dedicated his time and expertise to enrich our community through his work and collaborations. We are grateful for his presence and contributions. Thank you, and good morning, everyone.
Thank you very much, Dr. Asuncion K. Raimundo. Thank you. Thank you once again, Dean AKR. Alam niyo po, this project is almost 3 years in the making, as Dean AKR mentioned. And in 2023, we started the work. In fact, my classes in DevCom 136 and DevCom 145, these are distance learning and broadcast, multimedia production and management, have been involved in producing multimedia projects that are communicating sciences. For one, is the Apo Reef Talks on Science Communication, which happened because of our next speaker, who will introduce our lecturer, Dr. Victor Tixon. I remember that my class went to him and he shared his research and his work on marine science, particularly on the Apo Reef in Sablayan, Mindoro. And there we produced multimedia materials in communicating Apo Reef Talks. And after that, 2 other classes went on, which is the multimedia production and management class, which produced documentaries this time about the lake, no? About actually Laguna Lake, to be specific. And all these will be presented also later this afternoon, 2 p.m. at the Makiling Film Lab. More details we will announce later. So for now, let's get the ball rolling for the lecture. To introduce to us our lecturer, please welcome from the Institute of Biological Sciences, Dr. Victor Dixon.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Yeah, I'm Vic. I have no artistic bone in my body, but I'm here. I'm very happy to be here. And I'm very honored to introduce our guest speaker. But first, I'd like to greet our distinguished guests. Good morning, our distinguished guests from the academe and the UPLB community. I also would like to greet and thank our online guests for attending the World Expert Lecture Series sponsored by the University of the Philippines Office of International Linkages. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. So today I have the honor to introduce our World Expert Lecturer. Our lecturer is a renowned artist scholar whose expertise in applied theater has garnered international recognition. His research focuses on climate change, indigenous epistemologies, and ecological stewardship, themes that are very much relevant in our present setting. So let us welcome Dr. Dennis Gupa. Sir? Yes, sir. Dr. Gupa obtained his Bachelor of Arts in Broadcast and Radio Communications degree at the Polytechnic University of the Philippines in 1993 and his Master of Arts degree at UP Diliman in 2003. He completed his Master in Fine Arts Directing at the University of British Columbia in 2015 and his doctorate degree in Applied Theater at the University of Victoria in 2020. So our expert was a faculty of the University of the Philippines Los Baños Department of Humanities, College of Arts and Sciences from 2005 to 2015. In his stay at UPLB, he was the head of the Fusion of Arts and Sciences program. Currently, Dr. Gupa is a tenured assistant professor at the Department of Theater and Film at the University of Winnipeg in Canada. So Dr. Gupa is a constant contributor to the advancement of theater arts. He has numerous referee journal articles, book chapters, and handbooks published. Dr. Gupa is also a multi-awarded artist. His most recent awards in 2024 include the University of Victoria Distinguished Alumni Award, Emerging Alumni Award, and the University of Winnipeg Arts Faculty Excellence in Research Award. His interdisciplinary approach to knowledge, production, and circulation, as well as his practice-based research on Southeast Asian performance conventions, climate change, and climate justice make him an ideal partner for our WELS program. We are confident that his presence will enrich our teaching and extension programs, providing a unique opportunity for knowledge sharing and collaboration. Ladies and gentlemen, let us again welcome our WELS invitee, a teacher, a director, a curator, a researcher, and a very passionate student of the arts, Dr. Dennis D. Gupa.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dixon. That was extensive. Felt daunting right now. I think if there's one information that Dr. Dixon failed to mention, I'm single. So, magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat at nagbubuni yung puso ko na makarating muli dito sa aking pinagpipitagan. Diyos ko, na University of the Philippines Los Baños. This is a university that really challenged me to really go deep with my art and my craft as a theater director. I was a young faculty member. I didn't know how to teach, but the Department of Humanities really mentored me, and my colleagues here elevated me to become one of not just an artist, but really a good human being. So maraming salamat for inviting me here. So this I really like to begin by a practice of appreciation because I felt that I've sustained this practice of artistry, and currently this need for me to really investigate my identity as an artist and also a researcher. It is a project of collaborative mentoring, and I'd like to express my deepest appreciation to people and institutions who've created a space for me to continue interrogating my relationship here at the University of the Philippines. And what an honor it is to return to this beautiful university. I will always treasure the 10 extraordinary years I spent here at UP Los Baños as a faculty member of the College of Arts and Sciences, Department of Humanities. Those years gave me the privilege of working alongside excellent colleagues from across the colleges, a gift that enriched my life both intellectually and personally. While I was based in the Department of Humanities, my former chair, Professor Jerry Yapo, allowed me to collaborate with different institutions and institutes, just to, gave me an opportunity to properly investigate and also train myself how to be a teacher and how to be an artist, struggling to understand what it is to teach theater. So by collaborating with different institutes and colleges, I met scientists, senior scientists, and they inspired me to become a researcher and eventually, hopefully, a good teacher. I remain deeply grateful for the collegial interactions that sparked intellectual curiosity and fostered meaningful collaboration. Being back and working with scientists and artists and his amazing set of students that I'm currently working through my visiting research fellowship reminds me of the extraordinary work being carried out here in UP Los Baños. I also wish to thank my current home institution, the University of Winnipeg, particularly the Department of Theater and Film, which has provided me opportunities to deepen my pedagogy. I'm not really trained as a teacher. I'm an artist. I wanted to go deep with my craft as a theater artist, and that's the reason why I went to take MA in Theater Arts, and where I met extraordinary artists like Tony Mabesa, Jose Estrella, who I really look up as someone who've challenged me as an artist, and Gino O'Malley and Apolonio Chua. They're this set of people who've transformed my consciousness as an artist. And the University of Winnipeg is currently located at the Treaty 1 territory, the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Ojibwe, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. This is the place where I'm based now, in the country we currently call Canada. I would not be here without the visionary work of Dean Asuncion Raimundo and Professor Victor Tixon and Professor Chico in making this possible. I also want to acknowledge the wonderful support system and the unwavering diligence of Media and Communication Office of Professor Chico, who has established this kind of opportunity for me to revisit this primal experience I had here at the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. I felt like this university is like a playground for me, meeting artists and scientists and the students was just allowing me to co-work with them and create. So Professor Chico, thank you for that kind of fidelity to the work that you're doing with the university. My heartfelt thanks to as well to Monette and Rachel everywhere I go around in the university. They're the ones who are helping me in the production process. So everywhere I look dito sa university, I think of Monet. Na si Monet at saka si Rachel. And I'd like to mention all these fantastic institutions, including the graduate school with Dean Jomar Rabahante, for giving me a very nice place to sleep after the rehearsal. So thank you, UPLB, for your open arms. Tapos na po ang aking lecture. Pwede ba hanggang doon na lang? Well, anyway, in this lecture, really, okay na, ayan. In this lecture, I will be engaging in two modes of presentations. From time to time, I will be reading from my notes, and most of the part, I'll be just going around and really engaging with the PowerPoint presentation here and telling the story of my life. Okay. And so I really see the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, as a locus for interdisciplinary engagement. I'm seeing that because that's my experience here, okay? Where the arts and sciences intersect, interfaced, and hybridized. Within this context, artists and scientists cultivate a strong relational exchange of disciplinary inquiries. Mga pagtatanong at pag-uugnay, talaga yung mga naranasan ko nung ako ay nagtuturo dito. Okay? And shared material and intellectual resources, working collaboratively to address epistemological gaps in confronting some of today's most pressing global challenges like climate change. I think you're sleeping if you're not thinking about climate change. My own academic and artistic subjectivity rooted in applied theater and performance studies informs this perspective, allowing me to frame UPLB as a kind of a theatrical and performative laboratory for interdisciplinary thinking and intellectual collaborative practice that integrates artistic and scientific frameworks to experiment methodological intervention to social, economic, and political oppression. I'd really like to begin with that. I think that I exist as an artist and also as a scholar and a teacher because I'd like to awaken my consciousness about the current political and social marginalization and oppressions happening right now. And I think that UPLB is not divorced in that. I've seen that in the research that's been done here through working with scientists. This view is shaped by my decade-long immersion in this university, where I taught at the Department of Humanities from 2005 to 2015, as well as my current position as a diasporic Filipino artist and faculty member at the University of Winnipeg. My current research, pedagogy, community project at the University of Winnipeg enacts also fusion of various disciplinary engagement and intellectual materialities where research data and equipment are shared equitably. I say this to challenge and combat this kind of binary that we also think about science and art, that they're separate discipline. I think that we have to radicalize that, okay? And it feels to me that by radicalizing that is also allowing resources to flow in. And resources and including, the wealth of science research. And if we don't do that, I think in the effort of disciplinary hybridization of these two disciplines, if we don't open the wealth and the resources of one particular discipline, I think that we are perpetuating colonial efforts. So at this a few slides, I was so inspired to go back and check some archives at the library. and really see what is the historical context and call of this interdisciplinary consciousness and awareness and effort that I'd like to engage with UP Los Baños. So somehow I was saved by the archives, by looking at some of the photos and just really checking some available images that's available in the university library. So this perspective is reinforced by UPLB's rich history of theatrical production and the dissemination of live performances within its academic community and beyond. In this lecture, I will trace the intellectual history of UP Los Baños' embodied performance of the craft of theater by agricultural students, giving us some traces of the early attempts where arts and sciences are cross-pollinating and probably embodied, okay? And then I would also talk about key institutional initiatives, particularly those established under the deanship of Dr. Asuncion Raimundo, continued by Dr. Zita Albacea and Dr. Felino Lansigan, and conclude by presenting selected recent work and projects that exemplify this kind of a fusion of arts and sciences. So I would like to answer in this lecture, why fusion? Bakit ba kailangan mag-ugnay, magtagpe, magsalubungang agos ang mga dalawang disiplina na ito? By focusing on the core responsibility of university scholars and artists, pedagogy, research, community service, and the daunting demands that these roles entail, I turn to what I call, I propose this idea, fusion as collaborative world making. This concept serves as a mode of creativity, criticality, community building, bridging or bringing together diverse intelligences, and areas of expertise. Fusion as collaborative world making renders liminality and embraces in-betweenness of academic disciplines to envision possibilities of addressing intractable global problems. So probably some of you have heard this concept, wicked problems. When I was starting really to reflect about my research, I wanted to look for some concept that would describe the very complex issues of our world, like the climate change. There's also war, and there's also extreme poverty. And being situated in Canada, I also witnessed the discrepancy of wealth. Right? And then there's also the Philippines, who would receive 20 typhoons every year, but I'm there in Canada experiencing the wealth of theater practice. So we have 4 theater studios. So I felt so privileged. But then again, this kind of issues that we are confronting is very much conflict. So I'd like to share something about this concept of wicked problems, a term coined by design theorists from University of California, Berkeley, Horst Rittel, and Melvin Weber. They conceptualize this term to capture the messiness of policies entangled in social and political complexities. Wicked problems are issues so deeply embedded in intersecting systems, competing values, and shifting circumstances that they resist straightforward solutions. So these 2 men were saying that even if you solve a particular problem, that act of solving would also birth another problem. Okay, so that's the way they think about wicked problems. So I quote, wicked problems, according to Rittel and Weber, are not simply difficult problems. They are inherently resistant to resolution, as any proposed intervention often creates new challenges or intended consequences. The only thing that you have to do, according to these 2 men, is to manage wicked problem. You cannot solve it. It's unbelievable to solve it. How can you solve climate change, really? Okay, so that's the idea of these two men. They're trained as urban planners, and they wrote this concept from Policy Sciences in 1973. I'll give you some few characteristics of this wicked problem. They do not have a definitive formulation. Their solutions are not true or false, only good or bad. There is no way to test the solution to a wicked problem. All wicked problems are essentially unique. There are 10 characteristics. Some of them I have difficulty understanding because I'm also kind of resisting them. But it allowed me to initiate a vista of understanding to know how do I position myself as an artist in tackling climate change and migration. That's another research that I'm also doing as someone who's located now in Canada. So somehow I connect with this concept because I think that any scholars and artists who would like to adhere in the practice of fusing arts and sciences should possess a planner-like mind. But on the other hand, this concept is also problematic. See, parang I think of them as binaristic, bad and good, right? And true or false. I am not like that. I'm very gray as a human being. Am I female? Am I man? Am I a Filipino? Am I becoming a Canadian? What am I? I'm very liminal. And this concept is also sitting in a very particular binaristic concept, given that they're men, straight men. So, however, I found myself confronted by an impasse or a dead end, emerging from a Western epistemology or ways of knowing and formulated by two white men scholars. It often fails to account that these complex issues like climate change and migration and war are rooted in colonial histories. They don't talk about that. They talk about it's complex. You have to manage all these problems, but they're not really talking that a lot of these issues, global issues that we are confronting are colonially attuned, all right? And I'd like to look at it from a decolonial and post-colonial perspective because as an artist, currently located now in Canada, I felt othered, okay? And my worldview is very much othered too. So the concept somehow also erodes acts of transformative solutions. Kailangan lang i-manage, but it's not transformation. But if you are in a country like the Philippines, 20 typhoons every year, we have to transform, we have to demand something from that. We have to do something about it. Hindi lang kailangan i-manage. How do we transform it? So I challenge my art to contribute in the transformation efforts. So, sabi ko kay Chico, nahihirapan na ako sa high-tech ng UPLB. So, ayan. So these are some of the complex, wicked problems. Climate change, asylum and migration, right? And the West Philippine Seas. So I just watched this film, Food Delivery. I was destroyed by this film. It's a short film about, the territorial disputes that's happening right now in West Philippine Sea through the eyes and optics of this fabulous filmmaker. And I left broken and wounded by these enormous issues that we are facing in this particular part of the Philippines. So how do we really solve that? Okay, military science. How? Okay, cultural diplomacy, political diplomacy, maybe all of them. All right? So in response to wicked problem and to problematize it more, I turned to Colombian anthropologist Arturo Escobar. He's calling for alternative development practices and a decolonial vision for social change. Escobar's notion of pluriverse foregrounds the agency and self-determination of indigenous communities. This is really interesting for me. He's looking at particular marginalized communities to answer wicked problems, and peoples of African descent in Latin America, emphasizing this notion of multiplicity of worlds in which diverse forms of life and ways of knowing coexist. This multiplicity of worlds can offer us certain epistemology or ways of knowing and embodied practices of social transformation informed by collaboration. Ito talagang pasok talaga yung theater dito with the proposal of Escobar. Collaboration, creativity, and innovation. The scientists, I think, would really, this is the entry point of the scientists, innovation. Yun ang natutunan ko dito sa UP Los Baños. The innovative minds of the scientists. So he was really looking into this, the practices of indigenous communities and looking how their epistemologies or intelligence can confront, colonial processes of wicked problems or complex problems. So, so this collaboration, creativity for me and innovation go beyond the axis of capitalist power and modernity perpetuated by Western colonial projects of particularly extracting knowledge. I turn to interdisciplinary practice of world making to tackle wicked problems that offer multiple epistemologies, ways of living and knowing beyond modernist narratives of singular and universal pathway for development and rationality. In a sense, for me, fusion of arts and science is echoing pluriversed. It is one of those multiplicity of worlds capable of generating forms of life and recognizes ways of thinking together and alternative ways of life making. So, here, why do we have to be passionate about this kind of interdisciplinary of fusing arts and science in University of the Philippines? Well, there's a history of theatrical life making and theatrical world making at UP Los Baños, and even probably Sir Unreal earlier than UP Diliman. So I don't know, I don't have the data, but probably some of you have checked that there was a Mimics. It's a group of theater agricultural students who staged, look, Mikado. Mikado is like an operata. It's difficult to stage it. Okay? It's a music, it's an opera, it's an operata. Operata, dito sa UP Los Baños, it's an agricultural university. I guess it's also part of our colonial history because it was also established by American educators, all right? And they call themselves the College of Agriculture Dramatic Club. Okay, sorry. And then there's also other performative events like parades. Okay, I think that Feb Fair is also an example of that kind of a heritage of performance, right? Gaming and having fun, and the carnival apparatus of that Feb Fair is also rich to think about that there's already an interfacing of this agriculture and also a performance that's happening with, I don't know if Ma'am Sita can remember the very busy moment that we had in the Grand Centennial Sagara Parade. It's almost like it's easy for them to agree to do the Grand Sagada Centennial events during the time. But I think that there's also a kind of performative DNA in this university. So if there are big events, we always run towards performance making and theatrical event making. So yeah, so this is like the UPLB February Fair, and the booths. They're interesting performance and theatricalized events. So maybe some of you would like to check more of these pieces of archive and write about this particular history of UPLB's interest and curiosity and enthusiasm for performance making. And we haven't even talked about Tony Mabesa and the one that you've wrote, Professor Cayanes, Leo Remando. And this is a very important space for political theater as well. So yeah, so let me show you some I hope I would remain modest in sharing to you some of the works that we've done when I was still at the Department of Humanities. The fusion of arts and sciences must be grounded in rigorous intellectual and theoretical discourse in order to avoid the instrumentalization of art and the misrepresentation of scientific knowledge. So these are some of the example of the work that I did, and I think this is really the inspiration of the fusion of arts and science. Some of the images now that you're seeing are projects that we'd like to attempt. So this is Pasyon na Mahal ng Halo-Halo na Sukat Ipag-alaban ng Damdamin Sino Man Kakain. It's quite a long title, but it's a collaboration with the Institute of Nutrition. And also, there's this a fantastic space that was gutted by the fire. It's as what Dean Raimundo mentioned, the old chemistry building was burnt down, and then we transformed that into a performance space. This is an interesting collaboration with UPLB Glee Club. In 2013, we were invited by ASEAN Biodiversity. Is that a correct name? ASEAN Biodiversity, Center for ASEAN Biodiversity, because they're celebrating apparently the 20th anniversary, and they tapped UPLB Glee Club, and they asked me to co-direct with them, and we created a kind of a device performance at the forestry area with LJ Del Doc as one who was facilitating the text. So this kind of a fusion of arts and sciences is also something like a commemorative thing that happens, okay? So they remember to create a performance when there's a big event. And that's fine as well, because that's also an entry point to unpack the complexity of this collaboration. Okay, so when I was teaching community theater at the Department of Humanities, I had the privilege of working with fantastic com art students who jumped with me, and I told them, let's do community theater and think of theater as a way of inquiry. And the College of Agriculture invited the class to create a performance with organic farmers in Tayabas, Quezon. So we went there as a class, we worked with organic farmers and College of Agriculture and also the local government to create a children's play, and then it led to our discovery or learning about this particular daga that was found in Mount Banahaw. There was this set of researchers from University of Chicago who was doing a research and the biodiversity in Mount Banahaw. So the young people, the youth, our students at the University of the Philippines also went to Mount Banahaw to experience this kind of field research in the mountain, and we created a musical based on gulantang. They call it gulantang because apparently the researchers, when they encountered this daga, they were nagulat. Nagulantang sila. So they call it gulantang. That's also interesting in terms of naming and categorization, no? The affect of it. At least they did not name it in a particular human being. I think it would be colonial to impose a Smith rat in this rat. Okay. Rodent. Yeah, thank you. Okay. So this is the space that we were given. This is an ancestral space. I'm also it's overlapping now with heritage and tourism, this kind of a fusion. We were allowed to use this particular space because apparently they would like to conserve and renovate it and reintroduce this particular space to the community. So we created the performance, we staged the performance, also thinking that we have a heritage place and we have to take care of it. So the overlap now with tourism was also embedded in this project. Now, this was the production that Dean Asuncion Raimundo mentioned, Gossip with Whale. I brought that kind of practice, this kind of fusion of arts and science, really was, it hit me. So when I was in Canada, I was thinking of using it as a way of my methodology in my research. I received a small grant from the University of Victoria's Ocean Networks Canada because my dissertation was also on island communities in Samar. So the University of Winnipeg, Victoria is very strong in marine science research. In fact, they have the biggest ocean laboratory in the world to research the deepest part of the ocean, and they would drop this camera, and they have huge amount of archive of the life making and oceanic world, oceanic making, life making in the ocean. So they thought of making an artist in residency program. I was the second recipient. That was prior to the pandemic. I was intending to create a performance with the Filipino-Canadian communities in Victoria. And I wanted the Filipinos there to be introduced to science research. Okay, so I wanted to, because I have 10 years of life in UP Las Bañas, and I really thought that, oh my God, science is like also a community building. So I have this idea of engaging the Filipino diasporic communities in Ocean Networks Canada, teaching basic marine science, and learning about the Victoria Beach. Okay, that was the idea, and then we create a performance. Pandemic hit. So the idea was shift. I thought of UPLB. So I contacted these fantastic artists, Rojin and Darren, who immediately jumped into the process. And I said, I don't know what's happening. We have a data. We'll be having series of conversation with marine scientists. They'll show us their work. Let's do some kind of a work. I really don't know. And then I contacted a Filipino-Canadian artist, Carla Comanda, Tai Wale, and Jeremy Carag. We were all just immersing ourselves to the impossibilities of creating a performance online. And we created Gossip with Whales. And you will be hearing that. I encourage you to please watch our little performance sharing on the 27th, because you will be hearing the wonderful creativity and composition of Darren Vega. So it's an online performance using the data as a video of this performance. So this time, I'm going to share to you the result, the aftermath of these performances, okay? So the first production that we did resulted to this article articles that Dr. Melanie Narciso and Regan Maiques co-wrote with me. This is the kitchen theater that we did in the kitchen laboratory. Another one was Kulay Labatigan. He was also a former faculty member of our department in Reagan too. So we wrote about the Gulantang Theater. And this is now the Gossip with Whales. I'm showing this to you because I feel that that fusion entails this kind of a theoretical exploration and critical inquiry, while theatrical process has a very embodied work. It also demands a kind of an intellectual activity. And I think that science, because science is an evidence-based discipline, while art is rooted in aesthetic exploration, when these two domains intersect, it becomes imperative to reflect on questions of ethics, accountability, and public trust. Aesthetic experimentation and artistic expressions of science carry ethical responsibilities, particularly in how knowledge is communicated and represented. In the rehearsal last night that we had, Dr. Tixon was there, really collaborating with us. We're grappling, tama ba tong paggalaw ng mga coral reefs, sir? And then it's difficult, like we are also questioning our own artistic exploration, okay? Because right now we have this idea of public trust. It's a post-truth time. People can distort truth, okay? So I'm excited with this kind of conversations that's happening with scientists and artists in one room, okay? For this reason, artists engaging in science-based art must demonstrate fidelity to research methods, recognizing that the fusion of arts and science is not merely a collaboration, but a generative practice, one that produces new forms of knowledge and raises critical questions. And perhaps these questions that we are raising in our collaboration, we won't be able to answer. Thus, we have our students to tackle them eventually when we're all gone. I understand fusion as an interdisciplinary practice that resists disciplinary utilitarianism and guards against acts of appropriation. Instead, it enacts a dialogical relationship of mutual respect, criticality, and accountability to avoid misrepresentation of knowledge, epistemic harm, and erosion of public trust. So it's not just a performance that we do during commemorative events. I'm really raising it as a laboratory, as something that we are intending to write a proposal and let's collaborate and really create a method of inquiry. So, and perhaps make a theory out of it as a UPLB community. So, this is like, now I'm shifting now to a more institutional support. So in 2010, I remember that there was a memo that I received from former Dean Asuncion Raimundo with these folks, and we were tasked to really kind of promote this fusion of arts and science, okay? And eventually, one of the projects that we did, I think it was carried by Ma'am Sita Albacea, when I asked her, Ma'am, I think that we have to do field research, field work, so she provided us a van to go to Kalayaan, Laguna. And as a team, we went there just trying to explore and see the Kalayaan Holy Week. We were there in the Holy Week. You know what is so interesting? Jeremy picked it up, and he wrote a thesis out of this field research. Okay, so the MA research of Jeremy was also a result of this fusion that Dean Abasea and Dean AKR created for us. So it was inspirational, okay? And I was so happy and pleased that he wrote, and I think the reader, Professor Tiatko, was also part of this research to mentor Jeremy. Okay? And then more activities came out of it. Professor Aleli Domingo followed it up. This is much more, that was interesting because it has this pedagogical intent. And healing, these are some of the archives that I've got from the department, the college. So healing, interesting to arts and healing. It's becoming really now interdisciplinary. This is so important. I thought that when I went back to the college and the staff there said, Sir Dennis, there was this event like a hagdanan ng malayang kamalayan. It's part of fusion of arts and science by Sir Toto de la Cruz, who initiated this. So this is an interesting commemorative initiative. It's no longer this kind of a spectacle of costumes, of big lights that we were doing before during the centennial. It is a spectacle of social justice. Diba? And then they created this kind of a ritual and ceremony through the apparatus of fusion of arts and science. Very interesting kind of apparatus of interdisciplinary work. So it's becoming socially and politically attuned to commemorate that. What does this tell us? Okay, so I really believe that fusion is supported by institutional arm. It has to be supported fundamentally by a particular office. Because it's rigorous, you're managing people, you're managing resources, and that's what happened in the Office of Arts and Fusion. So the fusion of arts and science requires an institutional arm because sustained interdisciplinary collaboration demands structures that provide legitimacy, resources, and continuity beyond individual initiatives. Institutions such as universities or research centers or cultural organizations can formalize this kind of partnerships that we would like to forge within the framework of interdisciplinary work. Why do we need to do this? Because we need to allocate funds. We need facilities for cross-disciplinary thinking. It is a research. We are working with artists and scientists. There's an intellectual labor with that. And we need funding to be able to push and elevate the intellectual work that is generated in this kind of disciplinary work. It is not just an ad hoc. All right? It is a kind of a relational. It's building a relational epistemology. Okay? Hopefully, in the future, we'll be able to really influence policies on these wicked problems that we are also confronting. I see this also a platform for collegial exchanges. It's so good. Every time, parang lagi akong naiiyak pag nakikita ko sila ma'am dito pag bisita ko because I have a relationship with them. This kind of an intellectual exchange that we were having in the Department of Humanities is also rooted from a relational exchange. My heart jumps for joy pag nung nakita, maybe because I felt a migrant, coming back home. But I felt this kind of fidelity to friendship. And I think that's one of the gifts of this interdisciplinary work. Without an institutional framework, such collaboration risks remain ad hoc. Kung kailan lang pwedeng maggawa, patatawag lang po. okay? It is not strategic and it's not sustainable for a long time impact. Moreover, an institutional arm safeguards epistemic equity between disciplines, ensuring that artistic methodologies and scientific approaches are valued as co-constitutive modes of inquiry rather than relegated art as a beautiful performance. We have to resist this idea that every time that we have performance, it's a beautiful art. It's also an ugly art. And why we are not celebrating that. This kind of ugliness and horror that we have also, that we generate as artists, okay? Yeah, in this way, institutional support transforms the fusion of arts and science from a sporadic experiment into a sustained practice capable of addressing complex societal and environmental challenges. Malapit na po ako matapos. It's like a beautiful image of this commemorative. Nag-bleed in na into a more, politically driven consciousness. It's beautiful. See, we don't need big spectacles, right? To be able to create a performance, we just need a candle, a gathering. Really, what makes, this is a question by Onken Sen, what makes an art art? And sometimes most of the thing that we are using to define art and theater is very colonial. So here, there is a performance. You know, they're putting, and it's, and I just see some photos, it really, there's an affect. Okay? Sorry po, na-expose yung mga ilo natin. But I have the permission from the Dean's office to use this. Nakita nyo, ang ganda-ganda ng mga panahon na ito. This is fusion of arts and science. Okay? And the space just in front of the building. There's no lights, and I would assert that this is the most sustainable arts and science fusion because it's not really contributing with gas emission. There's no big lights. There's no costume, right? But it generates discourse. Okay. It's happening. Okay. Now, let me shift now to a more personal work that I did. In 2013, there was a big typhoon, Super Typhoon Yolanda. I was already in Canada during the time. And 2013, I came to Canada to begin my Master of Fine Arts in directing. As I told you, I wanted to just be an artist, deep with my craft because of the mentors I had at UP Los Baños, at UP Diliman, and I wanted to go and really study. 2013, September 2013, I arrived. I started rehearsing. November, I was called to an office, and one of my mentors said, "Come, stop your rehearsal because there was a big typhoon that happened." I told her, it's okay because we have so many typhoons, it's okay. And she showed me photos of the decimation of Tacloban, and I was shocked with the magnitude of that typhoon. I didn't understand because they were talking about climate change. I can't connect typhoon to climate change. I was hearing global warming, right? But there was a disconnect for me. And I was doing a lot of artistic expression, directing, enjoying working with fine arts acting students who are really trained to be professional actors. It was like a time of my life to be an artist, but there was a big typhoon, and I was, kinda navigating, what is this art got to do with Typhoon Yolanda? These are the actors that I was able to work with. Now, British Columbia is it's a big province. So I was located there. I was located at Vancouver. And this is the Philippines. You know, British Columbia is bigger than the Philippines when you put them together. British Columbia has a small population compared to the Philippines, like 100 million population. So I had a disconnect there. Like, why is the resources here are so not distributed well, right? A piece of Lay's chips, okay, probably $1 to $2 is equivalent to 1 kilo of rice here that could feed one small family. It's just a chips. So I already had this kind of a interesting reflection. What is this art in relation to my homeland? So in 2008, I was asking, how do I make my theater relevant to my community? So these are the questions that I'm already asking. How can I apply my theater in the conception of other possible future? And even and really, can future be possible to us? Okay, given. So after my MFA, I went to apply for an applied theater. I think that was the closest degree that I could get, right? So somehow from a very fine arts degree where you taught a beautiful art, you know, the shape, the texture, the beautiful art, I shifted to applied art. Okay, and then I met Dr. Kirsten Sadigiyekta, who accommodated me as a student, and she's this scholar working with war and asylum, and looking at the optics of theater in integrating post-trauma war. And right now she's working with indigenous community for indigenous language revival in Canada. You know, going to arriving in Canada, I never thought that there's a First Nations peoples there. I thought of Canada as Montreal and Vancouver, but then didn't realize that there's indigenous communities there whose colonial traumas and echoes of coloniality also have echoes with our indigenous peoples here. So I work with her, and during this time that I'm really looking at my art, I met this fantastic Filipino scholars and artists who also mentored me. Dr. Chaya Ocampo Go was this studying anthropology of disasters. Dr. Angeles, Nora Angeles is a political scientist from University of British Columbia. And of course, Alvin Erasca Tolentino is here, is contemporary artist and choreographer, who, like these people, I surrounded myself to these people to really understand this kind of a fusion of arts and science putting theater into a more relevant aesthetics. And then, at the end of the last period of my dissertation, I met the people from Ocean Networks Canada, who hosted me as an artist in resident, and I met this fantastic Dr. Kim Juniper, who's a world-renowned oceanographer, and sharing to me the data that I would need to be able to create the performance Gossip with Whales. So after UPLB, these are the people that I have encountered. And somehow this lecture is kind of an homage to these people who have really impacted me, who've kept this kind of fidelity of friendship that I'm also receiving from Alvin, who came all the way from Vancouver to help us put up this dance. Salamat po. Ayan. Now this is theater, environment, social justice. I believe that I have 10 minutes. And this is Kia. This is going to be a parade of, so I met, nag-iba yung hitsura sila yung... But these are photos of Tubabo Islands. Parang hindi po sila taga Tubabo, nag-iba yung... so, I'm sorry. There's a technical thing here. So I went to do field research in Tubabo Islands for my dissertation. And, you know, people from Tubabo Island were like... They're so happy that they would tell me that, you know, Tubabo Islands was a staging of the Ferdinand Magellan came here in 2021. There was a battle of Gulf during World War II. Grabe yung picture. I'm sorry, this is quite interesting. Super Typhoon Yolanda, Sir Alvin. Pwede na rin, para na rin siyang typhoon doon. Tapos si Ma'am, White Russian refugees. Okay, interesting. So, this, photos po yan ng tunay na archives, hindi sila. The technical thing happened here. So, this is a misperformance. So, which is also fusion. But anyhow, this is a little island community. Okay, this is an island community with global interactions. I was stunned to heard that they have 3,000 Russians who took refuge in this small island because nobody would like to accept them. Okay, Elpidio Quirino said, let's accept them, ask them to live in this Tubabo Island. And elders would tell me that they met these Russian refugees who created homes in that place, and they were performing opera, ballet, and teaching classical piano to the island people. Small island, but they have global relationship. Yeah? Interesting talaga mag-field research. Okay, so these are the people that I met in the island. That was me. Okay, so I don't know if in 2 minutes. Fishing, okay, so I was intending to study applied theater. I met this very generous man, Tatay Frank, who taught me fishing. Nag-start na ako maging interested sa fishing, hindi na theater. Sabi ko, I want to learn about panggal. Let's forget about theater. Okay, and then I met, this is interesting. Sorry. So this panggal, I would assert, has this kind of an ethno-mathematical thing because it has a lot of geometrical thing. They taught me how to make it. It's very geometrical, very difficult to create. And then they would put this panggal on the ocean without any buoy. And I would assert that this, sinasabi nila, ito yung mga karunungan na hindi nakikita. All right? It's an embodied ways of knowing. So they have this geospatial knowledge. I'll show you. Yan. So this is the epistemology of eskwela. So they would look at it in eskwela. Okay, so Tatay Frank would look at the terrestrial landscape sa bukid. Okay? So they would look at the terrestrial landscape. May tigaman, that's the Waray word. Okay? And they would put that the panggal in that place in the ocean. Okay? And then meron silang, what is that? 180 degrees? Tama po ba? 90? 90. 90. 90. Yes, 90 degrees. Yes, a triangular. So, andito yung puno, andan yung tuktok ng bundo, that's Tigaman 1, and they would drop the panggal. After 2 weeks, they would go back. After 2 weeks, babalik sila to look at the Tigaman there and the Tigaman there. Voila, they will pick it up again. So this is the mathematical thing that they have. It's very simple sign reading, but I also think that there's something about mathematical with this. Ethnomathematics, they call it. Okay? So I was just very interested. So how do I translate this epistemological knowledge in the practice of applied theater that deals with climate crisis in the community? So this is Tatay. So I was just, sorry. There's this words. May process yan eh. Pagpulod, utod-utod, yung process ng making. It's a weaving. Okay? And then, eventually, what happened was, I borrowed this process of weaving into our performance-making style. So instead of saying to our group, mag-rehearse na tayo, o mag-write na tayo ng play, we will say, mag-utod na tayo, magpulod na tayo. So we're just appropriating this fishing tradition to performance-making process. Okay? And then we have this, so here, so yan yung po yung mga ginawa nila. And then we use the words as theatrical terms, okay? Instead of rehearsing or writing stories, we would call pagpulod because it's about gathering the bamboos. Fishers would go to the bukid to gather their bamboos, okay? And then with utod-utod cutting the bamboos, okay? That's the technical dress rehearsal, okay? So basically, and then matunod meaning catching the audience, that's the performance. So we're transforming this vernacular terms to theater because I don't want to come to the community and teach them technical theater words that difficult for me to, it felt like I'm perpetuating also the Western knowledge, but they have artistic process here, just like this panggal, and very performative. Sorry, yeah. How do we do this? Ayaw na. Sabi niya, stop talking, synthesize, and conclude. I know. But naghang. Okay. So, yeah, what is this all about? I think that fusion is socially, fusion is socially engaged art, scholarly practice, community-based transnational collaboration. It is not only interdisciplinary, but also intercultural and intersectional. So I've met them. I don't speak Waray, my father's Waray, but it's also a kind of a pagsasalubong ng mga languages, all right? And creating space for multiple voices to emerge in response to pressing global challenges such as climate change, migration, and war. At its core, for me, fusion foregrounds relationality, reciprocity, and co-creation of artistic process, methods of knowledge-making across borders, communities, ensuring local knowledge or knowledges, indigenous epistemologies, and global perspectives are not only acknowledged, but actively shape the work. It centers the voices of those in the margins of society, empowering them to challenge the access of oppressions. In a sense, I am talking about fusion as arts and sciences as mode of alternative expressions of social justices. The labor is not just the creation of artistic product that being offered for consumption and entertainment, but to create a location or site of equity that enacts continuing practice of planetary care between humans, particularly humans who are sitting in the margins of our society, and even the non-humans. Fusion evokes that interconnection of equity and social repair. Marami pong salamat.
You're
Thank
done?
you for listening. That was so...
You have 2 minutes. No.
I have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dennis Gupa. Palakpakan po natin siya ulit. May kuryente.
Thank you po
Okay.
sa pakikinig.
I know you have lots of questions, maybe insights as well, commentaries even. The floor is open. Please use the microphone in the middle. Sir, please go ahead. Sure. You want to ask? Yeah.
Hindi na kaya. I'm sorry, naghang po yung computer. So yung mga images, I really apologize. It's really
We
a
will
technical
share,
glitch. Yeah, I'm really sorry.
Yeah, let's check the microphone. So please introduce yourself, your institution, and fire away. Yeah.
Hello. Good morning,
Good morning po.
Dennis. Dr. Dexter Cayanes of the Department of Humanities. So, marami kong natutunan. Nagkita kami ni Dennis kahapon lang sa DL O'Malley Hall. So inaantay pala siya ni Jeremy. So si Jeremy actually was my assistant director nung pinakauna kong Sinimalaya short film na nakapasok. So estudyante pa lang si Jeremy noon. So matanda na ako. So even Regan Maikes, si Regan, kaibigan ko rin. So estudyante pa lang din sa UP Diliman, sa Collegian. Pero nagtuturo na ako dito sa UP Los Baños noon. 1998 hanggang 2003. Bumalik lang ako ng pandemic noong 2021 dahil sa tulong ni Ma'am Norse, siya yung chair noon. Si Ma'am Norse. So halos kilala ko lahat yung theater. Gumawa ako ng research on theater sa UPLB. So, that was 1970 to 2000. So, meron pa palang mas early, no, na theater group, 1930s. Kasi ang napag-aralan ko lang ay nung 1950s, no, 40s, yung Speech and Dramatics Club. And yung legit, na meron ng hindi po siya College of Arts and Sciences, CA lang talaga. So yun, kilala ko halos lahat yung Tony Mabesa, Forestry, so Upsilonian. So na-interview ko rin siya, the late Tony Mabesa, our National Artist for Theater. So ginagawa ko yung theater history dito sa UP Los Baños. So yun. So maganda rin yung confluence, no? The confluence of theater and sciences. I call it confluence. No? So, it's yung concept ng influences. So, and intersectionality, sinasabi rin ni Doc Dennis yung epistemology, no, of theater. Basically, it's language. No? Sa film, kasi nagtuturo ako ngayon sa Department of Humanities ng short film production. No? So, sa majors namin, Comma 193, so, kung meron ditong ComArts, nag-meet, usually mga students ko sa ComArts ay theater, writing, and speech com. So, sila yung nandun sa theater prod ko ngayon. So, kaibigan ko rin naman yung DevCom, kasi sa theater, hindi na babanggit eh. Nung pinag-aralan ko yung theater history, like Luis Sibilla, DevCom siya eh. Pero hindi sila nakikilala. Leo Rimando, Bio. No, entomology, nag-Berkeley. Pero nag-aral lang ng theater sa Berkeley, tapos di niya tapos yung PhD niya. So, malungkot dahil nasa margins dati, no? Pag yung alam nating history ng theater, yung malinaw na theater and it's political. No, malinaw yun. Pag na-entangle ka sa politics sa loob ng university, dito sa UPLB, napansin ko, na ma-marginalize ka. Pero basically nagbago, no? By the presentation, no, na nakita ko 2008, tapos yung may hagdanan ng kalayaan and all, no? So pero contextualize ko lang yung mga insight ko dun sa binanggit ni Doc Dennis about fusion, no? Basically maganda yung theater, no? Kasi love ko rin yung theater, kaya yun yung MA thesis ko sa Diliman. That's why na-interview ko yung mga theater practitioners ng mga panahon yon na nasa labas, no? Mga nasa sciences, nasa DevCom. At ang tanong ko noon, walang ComArts eh. Noong 70s, walang nasa loob. Tapos yung Artists Incorporated, si Edward Perez, walang ComArts. Hindi ko alam paano na wala, no? Pero may theater sa ComArts. Pero yun yung later na lang yun. So, sa tingin ko, yung kagandahan ng theater na background, no, na pinapractice ni Doc Dennis, yung concept ng collaboration. No? So, open dun sa science and the arts. So, because basically, UPLB sa science community. No, kinakailangan makipag-interact ka dun sa mismong community para tanggapin ka niya. You also have to know the sciences. Okay, so sa tingin ko na pagtagumpayan ni Doc Dennis nung nagtuturo dito. Yeah. No, so may interaction, may collaboration, no? Si Sir Victor, so kanina nandito. So maganda 'yon na nare-realize na ng UP Los Baños.
Yeah, and I think that is what we term, at least for this particular lecture, the fusion, no? And
Yes,
that's the very idea where artists and scientists collaborate, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Tapos, yes, yung context nung napunta si Doc Dennis sa Canada. No, so, I've studied Canadian indigenous peoples, the First Nations. Tinuturo ko rin siya sa PhD class ko sa diaspora, sa Philippine Studies sa De La Salle University. Kasi nung nawala ako sa UPLB, napunta ako sa De La Salle University. So, tinuturo ko siya. Malakas sa Winnipeg, yung Filipino community. Actually, merong lakeshore community sa Angono na sila yung nag-initiate ng Filipino Fiesta sa Winnipeg, sa Manitoba. So, pag napag-aralan nyo, kasi may isang dissertation doon na minentor ko na sa Winnipeg. So yun, malakas yung First Nations. Actually, gusto ko sabihin na privilege yung First Nation, yung indigenous people sa Canada, actually. Kasi part ng constitution nila. No, so, ng Canada, kaya tinatawag nilang First Nation. Yung Cree, Dakota, na pag nasa South America ka, or South America, yes. No, northern part ng America, the US. No, so, mga Dakota, mga Sioux, mga yan.
That's right.
So yung mga Indians, American Indians. Pero unlike the Americans, no? Ngayon, yung poster na yun kay Trump na. So kaya sa political, no? Halimbawa yung president ng Canada and si Trump, di ba, nagkaroon ng rift. Kasi nga si Trump may ganung air, racist, no? Pero sa Canada hindi ganoon. No, hindi ganoon. Kaya talagang matindi yung rift na nangyayari ngayon sa Canada between Canada and the US. So, bakit ko sinasabi? Kasi pag nakapunta ka sa labas, mapapansin mo talaga yung privilege. No? Nakapunta ako sa Stanford University, sa University of Hawaii. So, talagang pag napunta dun yung scholar, yung academic, sa First Nation or sa First World, makita natin yung privilege na yon.
That's right. All right.
So, yun.
Sige.
So maganda yun. Kasi ba't ko sinasabi yon? Kasi yung binanggit ni Doc Dennis, yung concept ng funding. Kasi mananatiling
The
ad hoc yan.
institutional support.
Yes,
Yeah.
institutional support. Sa pinakahuli, nabanggit yung institutional support. Yung concept ng funding. So, halimbawa sa Department of Theater and Film sa Winnipeg, University of Winnipeg. So, sinusuportahan talaga.
Correct.
Sinusuportahan
All right.
talaga.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I need to accommodate some other people, but we appreciate your insights. Yeah, I just need to call another one. But
Okay.
thank you, sir. Later
Thank
we
you.
could talk with Dennis also in sharing your
Congrats,
insights.
Doc Dennis, na-articulate mo to sa university, no? Na ibalik mo,
Correct,
no? Yung pagbabalik dito sa atin sa UPLB. Kasi
And perhaps there's a lot of things to do from the Department of Humanities.
So, yung lalo na sinimula ng DevCom, no? So, itong talk na to.
Thank you. All right.
Tapos
Speaking of DevCom, allow me to just recognize my chair, Professor Lester Ordancer. Thank you very much for the support. And of course, our former Dean, Dr. Maria Stella Citerol, a very good collaborator also of this project. Thank you, ma'am, for being here.
Gusto ko rin i-acknowledge yung dean nyo ngayon sa DevCom.
Edmund
si Dr. Edmund
Centeno.
Centeno. Kaibigan ko siya.
That's right. Thank you, sir. All right. Precious, you'd like to ask a question? Yeah, please.
Magandang umaga sa...
hello.
Umaga pa ba? Magandang umaga sa ating lahat. Ang pangalan ko po ay Maria Preciosa de Año Baluyot. At ako po ay narito bilang parte ng komunidad, hindi ng akademya. Hindi po ako nag-aaral, hindi po ako teacher, hindi po ako nagtatrabaho sa UP. Pero nandun po ako sa tumawid po kayo mula sa faculty, library, tumawid po kayo doon sa kabila, hindi ba yun ay Barangay Batong Malaki na? No? So ako po'y taga Barangay Batong Malaki. At ang isang malaking tanong ko po ay, hindi naman tanong, kundi yung engagement ng community at yung mga siguro nasa labas na ng UP at yung mga nasa UP, merong malaking engagement na nangyayari palagi, lalo na sa panahon ng na meron tayong ipinaglalaban pare-pareho tungkol sa mga nangyayari sa ating bansa at sa ating mga kaibigan, no? Isang malaking, and I was very touched, Dennis, that you showed, naiyak na ako, that picture of hagdan ng malayang kamalayan. Ginawa namin yon, kasama ko sina Moni Nolasco, sina Menchi. So, dati kaming estudyante ng UPLB at ang mga pangalan na isinabit namin doon ay pangalan ng mga kaibigan na nauna na sa atin. Maaring sila ay namatay sa panahon ng rehimen ni Marcos dahil sila ay merong namundok at namatay sa encounter. Meron ding namatay na from natural causes, pero isang naging isang tunay na nakipaglaban para sa ating mga karapatan bilang estudyante at bilang mga tao sa panahon ng pang-oppress ng isang oppressive government, no? So, meron pa akong isang konting tanong lang, pero ito ay napaka-trivial, no? Pinangalanan po namin yung hagdan na iyon. Bilang mga estudyante, bilang mga alumni, bilang mga magkakaibigan, pinangalanan ang hagdang iyon nung gabing iyon na nagkaroon kami ng seremonya. Pinangalanan namin yon bilang hagdan ng malayang kamalayan. At kami po ay nagpaukit ng isang plake, bronze. Kami po'y chip in, nag-ambagan para magawa po ang bronze sculpture yon actually ni Lito Mondehar. At noon pong ni-renovate, napakasimple po ng tanong ko, noon pong re-renovate ang Humanity Steps, tinanggal po yung marker ay hindi po namin makita at hindi po namin malaman kung sinong tatanungin kung nasaan po ang marker. Yun.
Ma'am Tet, alam mo ba kung
yun,
nasaan? Ang nawawalang marker?
Sa nawawala ang marker.
Ilabas mo, Ma'am Tet. Nasaan?
At naiiyak ako para doon number 1. Okay, yun yung isang malaki na siguro
yung
sa
hagdan nasa likod.
construction, tinanggal kasi naglagay ng disability thing doon access, no?
Correct.
So, parang siguro isang kung nawala man yun, di nawala, wala tayong magagawa.
Pero
doon.
ipapatanong natin
Oo.
kay Director Harold.
Oo. Pero I think ang mahalagang aral na gusto kong pag-isipan natin ay meron tayong history, meron tayong sining, wag nating baliwalain, no? At nagkaroon ng initiatives mula sa atin mismo, mga kabatch ko nandito, mga deans na, yung ating initiatives nung unang panahon ay wag nating maliitin. Malaki po ang nagawa natin. So yun lang actually. Just
Thank you. Yeah.
connects to that, no, na it's lost or not, it's a material thing, it's fine. But for us to think of why we did that, and are we still doing that kind of questions? Are we still asking questions about the society that we live in now, and are we moving forward with a future for our children who will be living in a kind and compassionate society?
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Precious. This is important, Dennis, no? Parang building on the past and, continuing whatever we have started then, no? So I think that's one of the things that I got from Precious. Yes, sir, please. And by the way, Precious is part of the presentation on August 27, so please watch out. Good morning, sir.
Magandang umaga. Ako po si Ian Lomongo. Sa po ako, Department of Humanities. Nagtuturo ako ng PS21 na isang elective course hinggil sa martial law. At yun nga, nung unang pagkakataon, tinuro ko to nung last year, ay natutunan ko yung, kasi hindi ko nga nakita siya. Nang pumunta ako dito sa UPLB, hindi ko alam kung na-renovate na yung hagdanan o hindi ko lang napansin. Pero nung tinuturo ko na yung kurso, nalaman ko nga na ang tawag dun sa hagdan ay hagdan ng malayang kamalayan. Pero sabi ko nga, bakit wala na yung marker? Kung may marker, batay dun sa mga nakaraang, I think 2017 nga yata, nilagay iyon. So parang masalimuot yung kasaysayan ng UPLB, na parang sa kasaysayan kahit nung panahon ng Batas Militar, makikita natin na mayroong kolaborasyon sa mga Marcoses, pero at the same time, malakas yung aktivismo na pinakita ng mga estudyante at mga guro. At nung September, malapit sa September 21 last year, ay gumawa rin kami ng simpleng seremonya doon sa hagdanan. Nagsindi kami ng 10 kandila bilang pagunita doon sa Southern Tagalog 10 na nawala o mga kabilang sa mga desaparecidos noong 1977. So sina Rizalina Ilagan, Jessica Sales, at iba pang mga kasama. Yun nga, baka maaaring, ewan ko, baka pwedeng sumulat tayo bilang mga mamamayan ng UPLB, mga guro, mga estudyante, para ibalik yung or gumawa ng panibagong marker doon sa hagdan ng malayang kamalayan bilang pagtutol o kung di aksidente man o sinadya na alisin yung marker na ito, ay ibalik para ipagpatuloy yung paggunita dun sa mga pakikibakang ginawa ng institusyon ng UP Los Baños.
Correct. Yeah. Thank you,
So
sir.
maraming salamat, Dennis, tsaka Precious, dun sa yung pagbanggit nung hagdan ng malayang kamalayan.
Okay, wala pa nagtatanong pero tinanong ko na si Director Harold Layawen, baka nanonood, kung nasan yung marker. So baka mahanap po niya. Si Sir Rufo and then si Sir Anril, please. Si Anril daw muna. Thank you for giving way. Yeah, palakpakan natin ang Director po ng Diliman Information Office. Yan. Sir Anril.
Hello, magandang umaga po sa lahat. Pagbati kay Dr. Gupa. Ako po ay naririto bilang isang tagahanga at kapatid
Lapit
sa
lang tayo, sir,
pusod.
sa microphone.
Kapatid
Yes.
sa pusod ni Dennis. Una po, siguro sisimulan ko sa pagbati and at the same time sa napapanahong komento na ang ganda po kasi noong pagbanggit ninyo na nasa panahon na po tayo ngayon kung saan hindi natin mariresolve ang issue ng lipunan kung mananatili tayong myopic, insular sa sarili nating disiplina, at ibinahagi mo nga na itong fusion na nais nating bigyang balangkas ay isang, for lack of a better term, transdisciplinary theater making activity. Kung sa aking pananaw, it has this potential to end silo mentality, and it provides a room for everyone to really think about crises or crisis. Kasi hindi lang naman isang lipunang krisis ang climate change. Ngayon, ang tanong ko, kasi itong panahon ngayon ay ang daming mga umuusbong mga socially engaged performers. So, ano kaya ang maipapayo mo sa mga nagsisimulang artista na nais na pumalaot dito sa mundo ng socially engaged performance, lalo na siguro sa ecodramaturgy, performance ecology? Maraming salamat.
Payo, Dennis.
I think that's a very important question. In a sense, this presentation is kind of an homage to the mentors that I have encountered over the years, that I was also trying to find my voice and purpose as an artist. And I think that young people needs to be open with mentorship. As I'm speaking in that way because I'm also part of a university, and my task is to interrogate my own pedagogical purpose, pedagogical ethics, pedagogical strategy, and I really would like to open the conversation. How are we mentoring this young generation of people? Because I'll be dead without mentors. I'll be dead in this university without the mentorship of the leaders in the Department of Humanities. Even I was telling Ma'am Grace, she was the leader of our division, and I would, it was not direct mentorship, but I was so open as a young faculty member. At age 32, I was young in terms of the practice of teaching, but I was 32 years old, and I needed mentors. And I think that that's our role as artists and educators, to mentor young people. And these young people needs to be open with the rigors of that mentorship. That I feel that new generation of young people has to also learn a certain amount of boldness to be able to receive that kind of I don't want to use the word discipline, because that's a little bit problematic, but a kind of process, consistency of process, that if you receive a kind of a mentorship, you have to really be open and ready to receive that kind of interaction and learning. So in that question, I really think that the value of mentorship is so important. And the challenge for us is to interrogate that in a complex world. I love the mentorship type of the Japanese. There's this kind of a respect to the craft, and the mentorship that is also involved in the terms of repetition. I love the mentorship in the Filipino teachers that I have here, in the deans that I have worked, this kind of a relationality, very warm. I also like the kind of mentorship that I receive from my mentors back in Canada. It's very logical as well, but very warm. But we don't talk about work after work hours. So I think that the young people needs mentors to be able to find their light. And we are, I think that as teachers growing from this practice of teaching and art making, we're gifted with light, and our responsibility is to share that light, however difficult it is.
So perhaps for the young people, you look for mentors, you allow yourself to be mentored, no? And be very open to these things. Sir Rufo, please. Faculty Follies Best Actor 2010. I remember, I was first runner-up to him.
I'm more than that.
Definitely, yes.
Magandang umaga po sa lahat. Nandito po ako dahil inimbitan ako ni Dennis. Hindi pwedeng hindi ako pumunta kasi marami siyang journal articles na pinadala sa akin. Naka-study leave po ako ngayon sa Department of Humanities. Kasalukuyan po ako nag-aaral ng Performance Studies. At teacher ko po si Sir Anriel. Ayun po siya.
Bongga.
Kaya dapat maging maayos yung tanong ko. Okay. Bilang nasa academe, ang interest ko, Dennis, at bilang nasa College of Arts and Sciences, actually relevant nung sharing mo about fusion. Kasi ang teatro sa humanities, siyempre alam naman natin na sa arts and sciences. For the longest time, ang ginagawa naman natin sa theater arts program natin, we stage classics, di ba? I mean, Commerce, are you here? None, my God. Anyways, so, ang interest ko, Dennis, baka makakuha kami ng insights, tips, advice, or experiences from you and from the University of Winnipeg. Baka may best practices sa University of Winnipeg na kung saan itinuturo sa isang kurso o sa mga kurso ang fusion ng arts and sciences. Like, paano siya itinuturo? Is it also a collaboration of a performance studies professor or theater arts professor and a science professor? Like, paano binabalangkas yung kurso? Baka makakuha kami ng ideya para makapag-institutionalize or makapag-present ng curricular proposal para naman hindi lang namin marinig yung mga shinare mo, kundi may sagawa or ma-institutionalize namin dito. Okay, okay. Kasi I think that will make the theater arts program quite different from the theater arts program of Diliman. Lalong-lalo na tayo ay nasa arts and sciences. Di ba? Napakaganda nun. So,
Okay.
baka pwede mo kaming bigyan ng idea kung paano ito ginagawa sa University of Winnipeg.
Paano nga ba sa
Yeah.
inyo, kapatid?
I really think that's an important question. And lamentably, the presentation was cut because I would like to transition with the pedagogy, the fusion and the pedagogy. I have some slides on that. And maraming salamat sa pagtatanong mo, Professor Rufo, soon to be Dr. Rufo. And I am really happy because you allowed me to speak about that last chunk of the presentation. Tinuturo siya yung fusion. They don't call it fusion, of course. It's really interdisciplinary. That's the biggest word there. And I'm quite happy because it's quite distinct here. We call it fusion, right? And that's our iteration of interdisciplinarity. Some folks call it transdisciplinary, one discipline go migrating to another discipline to ask a question, but about that discipline using another discipline. But interdisciplinary really is like really a messy thing na, and really answering a particular question without not from a singular discipline. So in that framework, napakabukas ng University of Winnipeg na mag-integrate kahit sino. I have, before coming here, I had a course, it's called Applied Theater and Climate Change. It was so fast. They asked me, do you have any, that's it. This is a course that I taught in spring, and they asked, my department chair said, do you have any interest of teaching other course based on your research? Based on what you're doing right now. I said, I'm doing climate change and applied theater. Okay, do you have any, second question, collaborators from the university that could support you because your research is singular. We don't have other faculty from our department who does that kind of research. So now that transdisciplinary comes in, do you have other people in the university? Yes, I have. Can you go and next yeah, so this is the course syllabus. So I love it because they allowed me to write my own course syllabus, because sometimes you enter the department, you receive your own course syllabus, right? You teach, you inherit a course syllabus. So after 3 years, I was kind of happy to be writing my own course, my own strategy, my own content. It's really my own home. I'm creating my own home, and it was so good because I also realized students who are interested in the course that I am teaching and the research that I am engaging. So madali yung pag-create ng mga kurso. It's an exploratory course. It doesn't need to go through a lot of bureaucratic processes to be able for you to experiment on it. Can you go to another?
So perhaps this is the 190 courses, no? Or the 290 courses. A 191, ganyan, special topics.
Yes, a special kind of a topic that you experiment.
That you develop, and then when it's rich, it can be a new course, right? A regular course.
Yes.
So that's one good practice.
And you know, writing the course syllabus is also a political act. I've noticed that, you know, you read it, right? A text. In my course syllabus, it has photos and images.
Mm-hmm.
Because I use a lot of images in my teaching. And they're very open. They don't censor you. It's very liberating. So the second page of it has the...
Next slide.
An image. So this is
There.
and then this is what I'm saying, that open yung mga laboratory ng mga collaborators ko. They would open it for us. This is a greenhouse that my students would go.
Mm-hmm.
We planted, uso kasi during that time yung pakwan eh. So using local fruits as a staging site of an inquiry. So we work. I brought my students. We had a lecture with artists and eco scientists in the laboratory. Can we use it again? Yeah. So, and then we learn about seeds. UPLB has
So it's
a
like an
lot
immersion of
it's
these
an
theater
oh my
students
God, yes,
into
UPLB is like a
laboratories.
living laboratory for this interdisciplinary work and has to be encouraged. Next, please. So these are the three warriors really mentored me to craft my syllabus. So I created the draft of my syllabus and then I share them to them. They come to my office, I come to their office. You know, very, very collegial, and they would, you know, share their works to me. So it's great because part of it I'm also learning. Part of it I'm released from the rigors of really managing the class because it's really a collective teaching, and I see them how to teach. It's also my strategy about teaching strategy because I see how this senior faculty members teach their courses.
Yeah.
It's amazing for me to be mentored in that process.
You have environmental sciences. You have women and gender studies and from education. So
I really like to get somebody from Faculty of Educating teaching climate change because I wanted to know how. I'm an artist. I took my PhD in theater. But I'd like to continue shaping my pedagogy. So it's, in other words, the practice is not just me being a professor in fusion of arts and science, but also me as a learner and co-learner. Because I wanted to also grow as a practitioner of knowledge production and dissemination. So course syllabus has to be really parang not too much difficulty in proposing, giving free range and creativity in teaching, and sharing resources. I've experienced that also in UPLB. When I go to VetMed and I said, I want to borrow your horse, not the real horse, but the art horse, they would give it to me for my production.
yeah.
very
Okay.
good. I hope I answered my...
Ayan na, ang dami na. I'll start with Mo Lianco first and then Gien Garma. And then the students, please.
Hello, magandang umaga po. Ako si Mo Lianco mula sa Department of Social Sciences. Welcome back to UPLB,
Thank you, Mo.
Dr. Dennis. National scientist Helia Castillo told us, science must always have a human purpose. When the best science and scientists are devoted to those who have less in life, that is the best equity and ethics at its best. Today, Dr. Gupa's lecture allows us to revise that. When the best scientists, social scientists, and artists are devoted to managing, if not solving, the world's wicked problems, that is ethics and equity at its best. The university has allowed you, the University of Winnipeg, the University of Los Baños, has allowed you to do what you do best. And that is an important space. But I now ask the question, who's listening to you now? Who's watching to you now? Who's watching you now? And who's responding affirmatively? Kasi halimbawa, yung climate change and theater, I think it's a really important collaboration. Nakita ko kanina dun sa graph, yung line ng carbon emission, for example, dun sa mga international shipping, particularly cruise ships, sila yung madaming nagdadala ng carbon emission. So, who has taken up your idea dun sa world outside the university and doing something affirmative about the whole point of managing the wicked problems that you retell through your art? Salamat po.
My God. Kailangan ko uminom. Because it's a question of knowledge producing. It's a question of knowledge dissemination and audience, right? It's a huge question. 'Cause I am not, it's beyond me because I'm not Maria Ressa. I am not this global figure whose work in the world has a global impact. But I have interest in using globality and transnationalism as a framework of my practice. And I always go back to my students as my audience. That's why I do research. I want to really improve my skills in doing research, and when I co-work with the community, that also a kind of my extension to that audience, the community members. So I have very limited scope of reaching out with my audience, and I'm okay with that because it's also it's a lot of labor when you aspire for global reach. I have very limited, as an artist of color back in the university, I also compete for funding, and that also limits my opportunity to generate my questions and my theory that I'm thinking. Here's a wonderful article by Felipe Cerveza, who write about performance in planetary scale. He's saying that in his paper that every time we think about theater and climate change, we think of United Nations. We need to impact the globe, the global scale. We have to think of UNICEF, all this global organization to really mobilize change and transformation. But he's challenging that. He's saying that when we have to think of performance study in planetary way in our rehearsal space, that is the planet, the rehearsal space that you engage, the people that you work, the classroom that you work, the 5 people that you work in your classroom has that global and planetary scale. So it is an answer, that question, that very important question is the answer that is how far that you're really going deep with your teaching skill, your art method, and how difficult your questions are, because these questions also need to challenge your students so that when they go out, they have this kind of a search for, a knowledge. So that's a very difficult question. Last time I was invited to I did a keynote speech with this international eco dramaturgy organized by Shanghai Academy of Theater. It's kind of an international. That's nice because you have an international audience, but I'm not tantalized with that. Because I do not know this audience. What I care about is an audience that I have relationship. That's why I keep on working with Alvin, because Alvin has a relationship with me. I have a creative relationship. We are impacting each other, and I know that Alvin has also networks of international artists that somehow, it's like a Guattari also theory of networks. That's hopefully my students are listening to me. There are 7 students who enrolled in this climate change and applied theater. I was really so happy because they are the one who received the invitation for this course.
How many semesters have you been teaching this particular course?
Just this spring, because we wanted to, katulad sabi ni Ma'am Albacea, experiment with it and then use it eventually for institutional course.
I see.
So maybe,
Okay.
I hope I satisfied your
Thank
question,
you.
Doctor.
Gian, and then the girl in purple shirt, please.
Hello po, magandang umaga po Sir Dennis, Sir Chico at sa lahat ng mga kasama natin ngayong umaga. Ako po si Gen Garma, Instructor 4 from the Department of Development, Broadcasting and Telecommunication. Isa po dun sa pinaka-napukaw ako Sir Dennis, dun sa presentation nyo kanina, is you said that fusion has to have institutional support. Kasi tunay naman kahit na anong endeavor naman sa pamantasan, kailangan, it flourishes better if it has institutional support. Now, after hearing that, medyo nagfa-flashback lang sa akin yung the idea, ano bang tawag doon? The anachronistic idea, makalumang ideya that communication is the handmaiden of the hard sciences. Danas ko yun nung estudyante ako sa BS DevCom. Kaya it's a very refreshing sight to see scientists collaborating with artists and communicators para ma-explore natin how do we send these important scientific messages. Pero yun nga po, napapa-flashback ako sa mga pagkakataon na meron tayong mga kasamahan sa hard sciences na nag-aanlinlangan, to put it in a manner that's not blunt, no? Na nag-aalinlangan sa kung paano ba hahamigin itong dalawang, as you said earlier, dalawang binaries na to. It can be a cultural thing, it can be a political thing na kaya we are arriving, kaya ang nadadatnan natin pagpasok sa pamantasan ay ang sining at ang agham ay dalawang magkaibang bagay kahit malinaw na malinaw. Pwede naman siyang pagsamahin, no? And pwedeng may iba-ibang pinanggagalingan yung ating mga kasamahan sa hard sciences as to bakit meron silang pag-aalinlangan. So, ang tanong ko po ngayon ay, my question is, institutionally, what should UPLB do to break that wall between these two seemingly, pero hindi naman talaga, separate fields or disciplines? Ano yung mga dapat pong gawin ng ating pamantasan to encourage more people in the sciences and the arts and communication fields to come together and to fuse, no, para mas ma-hasten natin, para mas maging malinang pa natin yung paghahamig ng sining at agham. Does it need funding? Kailangan bang may opisina? Is it through the curriculum? Basically, institutionally, what should our university do? Salamat pa.
Paano, kapatid?
Yeah, very eloquent sharing, Sir Gwen. I am not a master of fusion here, but I have an interest in that kind of work. I really think that many of the categories that we inherit are colonially imbued. So, say for example, I was thinking of the word scientist. Who created that? Who thought of that? Who coined that? It was an 1843 conception. And things changed after that word was introduced to the academy. The word scientist, prior to that, the person who scientist that we call right now was called natural philosopher. Natural philosopher. That was a beautiful imagination of fusion. A natural philosopher. It was scientist was coined by this William Whewell, and he said it's about time that we have to bring science in philosophizing the natural world. And I think my theory that opened the binaries. In Bali, there's no word for artist. Everyone, if you're interested in doing art and science and dentistry, most likely you're a mask maker. I met a dentist who's also a mask maker in Bali. Art is an everyday thing. It has an everydayness in Bali. They don't have a word for the artist because it has to seep in. Art making is everyday to them. Okay? So, to answer directly to that question, Gwen, I really think that we have to confront our colonial history as an institution. Because this colonial history gave birth to many binaries. And that's so sad because binaries also harm relationships. And it also, it's extended competition and survival and defeat and triumph. Failure is not celebrated, only big triumphs in binaries. That's why you have the loser and the winner. And most of the time in the university, the winners are those who have a lot of wealth and resources. And we have to break up. Again, these are colonial processes. And we have to break and combat that to be able to give way to artists who also are belaboring their art making but doesn't have a proper rehearsal space. But when you look at it, we also have scientists who doesn't have beautiful, great laboratories. But when you look at the hierarchy, at least they have laboratories. But theater directors, they are rehearsing under the fertility tree. There's a hierarchy of struggles here, right? So this is a colonial practice and the colonial efforts. We have to challenge that, I think. So I don't have a practical answer. I think it's more of a framework and philosophy of really challenging all these categories that's colonially precursor. The precursor of that is coloniality. Right? And paano natin matatanggal yan? This is built, UP is built by colonial intellectuals and teachers, co-planned, that we are, these are our forefathers. It was built, this university is built during the colonial period. Right? So I really believe that we have to continue understanding the colonial histories and the processes that's still every day in our teaching, research, and distribution of research funding.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Napagod ako sa answer.
You and then sir, please. Go ahead.
Hello po. Good morning po everyone and thank you po sa talk niyo po, Sir Gupa. Ako po ay si Rebecca Padua Hernandez. I am a graduate student on Plant Genetic Resources Conservation and Management. And base sa survey kanina, ako lang yata ang taga-CAFS, College of Agriculture and Food Science. Konting background lang po. I am a third-generation scientist in my family. And for some reason, I saw an audition notice during my undergrad days for Agra, a new musical. Napansin ko dahil agricultural themed and sabi ko, okay, I'll audition for fun. And karamihan ng nakilala ko doon ay com arts. And I auditioned and sabi ko, di na ako makakapasok dito. And then, to my surprise, naging part ako ng ensemble. And that's why I got into theater. And for me, my concern is, parang may disconnect ang CAFs in terms of theater. Maybe because of our proximity away from this center of UP. So, ang concern ko, ever since Agra came about because of OICA and other things, hindi na yun sumunod. Ang saya ng process na yun since it's a new musical, original, the lead is basically a plant breeder, one of the bread and butter of UPLB. And I was wondering, parang nasagot na rin yung question nung kay Sir Rufo and Sir Gwen, how can I convince my colleagues in College of Agriculture and Food Science to parang pa-importante rin sa kanila ang teatro. Dahil parang ako lang yung naging interested sa teatro, ako lang yung actual na agriculturist sa cast na yon. And I wish there was something to deal with it. Sana masunod. Kaya natuwa ako na nakita ko na may drama club ang College of Agriculture noon. Hindi ko narinig yun. I wish there was an actual a guide on the history of theater here in UPLB. I would have loved to know about that. And I think because sobrang tutok namin sa agri, sobrang tutok namin sa rice and research, napapabayaan na yung art side namin. So I wish there was more to bridge that gap because I have a lot of ideas. I have some stories, but it's underdeveloped. I don't have the right mentors. I have a lot of mentors in sciences, but my
in the
artistic
arts.
side is kind of underutilized, nabubulok ng konti. Pero yung idea kasi nandoon eh. Kaya na hindi ako natuwa nung sinasabi nila na patay na ang GE side. Because without the GE side of my course as an undergrad in 2014, 2019, hindi ako makapag-audition sa musical na yun sana. Hindi ako makakapagsulat ng mga dula or stories about my struggles as an agriculture student. So yung question ko, or it's more of a manifestation, I wish there was some more balance to make us more of a holistic student, not just as a researcher, but also as an artist. Like in entom or in botany, we were given outputs na dapat mag-drawing kami, na dapat scientifically accurate pa rin, yung botanical illustrations as well as the entom part. Pero kaming mga nagsusulat ng mga research articles and nagsusulat, hindi namin na-appreciate dahil mas napapressure kami magsulat ng output ng research results and discussion instead of appreciating the beauty and the art of our sciences. So ayun, sana mas ma-integrate sana yung College of Agriculture and Sciences and College of Agriculture and Food Science sana. Dahil nasasayangan ako, parang ako lang mag-isa. And it's hard to find mentors who are within my unique path.
Yeah.
So yun po, thank you.
Kapatid, would you like to react to that?
Yeah, thank
What do
you.
we need for students like her?
Okay, thank you for sharing that to this public. This becomes really an open forum, and how do we mobilize this open forum to an actualization of change? And I think that your voice and your experience and your feeling are important elements to generate discourse and dialogues. Again, I think it's beyond me to make recommendation to the College of Agriculture of what to do. I think there should be, I believe the value of artist residency, or a kind of a residency that would encourage experimentation and exploration of ideas. We are in a university, we are tasked to generate knowledge. So, ang mahirap kasi sometimes when we think of art, presentation, right? People are scared of that. You know, we have different experiences. We have trauma in public speaking. It's a skill. It's a practice. Art is a practice. You can't just go in a space and perform. It has a training. So I understand why some folks are cold about it. Because suddenly a scientist is asked to perform. That's a lot, right? I think that we have to go beyond with that idea of a presentation when we think of art or exhibition. Art is, for me, a worldview. It's an everyday life. And if it is an ethic, a worldview, it should also inform your research, your writing. Isn't it beautiful to write a scientific paper that is also has an artistic expression, but you're a scientist? Art is everyday. When you look at a photo at askewed siya, and if you have an artistic epistemology, di ba aayusin mo? That's the thing. And I was talking with Ma'am Vicky Espaldon, and she's saying that, bakit ang dumi-dumi talaga ng Laguna Lake? Hindi natin malinis. We have to own it as ours. And I think that's an artistic epistemology. Ayusin. It's a system of idea. Art is a system of ideas. It has a method. Right? So really, I believe that maybe we could encourage science, art residency, where there is a program where artists and scientists are given a certain funding to be able to play, experiment, have a conversation, and then at the end of the residency, share it without the pressure of presentation. Because we are in a university and we are interested also in knowledge sharing, hindi ba? Walang pressure masyado ng spectacle, ganon. I think ang hirap kasi kailangan pag meron tayong theater, magda-dance or mag-aawit, nakakatakot din yon.
That's why it's also difficult to find the right title to what's gonna happen on August 27, right?
Yeah, right.
I knew it was a struggle. So what is this, Dennis? Is this theater? Is this a presentation? Is this a symposium with a twist? What is it? So, and we are yet to find out, right? There's, I mean, wala pa tayong tawag doon. We don't know really. So, yeah, but we'll find out on August 27. Okay?
May answer,
Sir,
but-
please, and then our student there in black.
I'd like you to continue working with your passion because that's a very important intersection and maybe you will create a breakthrough.
Yeah.
We need the breakthrough in this time of crisis. Sinasabi ni Sir Unreal. We need to make breakthroughs. I am an artist and a teacher and probably I'm also limited, but you, the next generation, has to discover that kind of breakthrough. Yeah. So I encourage you to continue that.
Yeah. Thank you. Sir, please.
Good morning. Kumusta?
Mabuti po.
Paulo Arejola, graduate of Agricultural Engineering here at UPLB. Thank you for this collaboration because it supports yung aming endeavor. We are in the manufacturing business of fertilizers. We focus on crop nutrition. And one of our vision is creating a healthy environment. So now we focus on soil health. So it's protecting the environment, climate change, background muna before in question ko. We are introducing products that reduces ammonia gas in the atmosphere. And then one of our products is from the deep sea of Nova Scotia, the east coast of Canada. It's a seaweed extract from the ocean which supports microbial activity sa soil. So, ang problem namin is how to communicate climate change by reducing drastically by 50% the volume of synthetic fertilizers in the soil. In our position, ganun lang kami, kaliliit. And our enemy is the huge multinational companies who will do anything to keep their trillion-dollar business. Okay? What's happening now is multinationals are slowly buying biological companies. Okay? Example, Syngenta bought Stoller. Corteva bought Stoller. Syngenta bought Valagro. It's a biostimulant company. And somehow along the road, it's being downplayed. Okay? So now, ako, yung aking pananaw, why fusion? Sa akin, hindi na fusion eh. It's been fused a long time ago. Why? Scientists are presenting climate change. Okay? This is the table, this is the graph, this is the data, the value. Farmers don't care about the graphs. So, scientists will make an artistic presentation para maintindihan nila. So there is already a fusion. So on my opinion, ang nakikita ko is synergism. Okay? Scientists need the artists para ma-convey yung message in a way that it can be understood. Okay? And artists need the scientists for the data, for public trust, para yung present mo, it's authentic. Okay? And the problem now is the advent of AI naman, na blur yung mga data. Okay? So kami ngayon, I see this as a wonderful step towards talaga yung climate change na ma-imbibe ng bawat isa. Kasi there's a balancing act eh. Economy, income, profit versus survival. Okay? And the next thing, kami in agriculture, nakikita na namin, it's not money in the future ang pinag-uusapan. It's not Bitcoin. It's the arable land na ma-acquire mo. So you control the food, you control economy. Okay? Yun ang ginagawa ni Bill Gates. Nag-acquire siya ng maraming land. Okay? So my question now, meron na synergy eh. Where do you see this collaboration in the next 5 or 10 years? How do you picture it? How will it evolve? Yan. And are you seeing not only yung universities, academe, but are you also considering yung private sectors as part ng collaboration? So yun lang.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
It's another
Envision.
That's another important question. Thank you, Sir Arijola, for opening that can of worms. That when we talk about climate change, we also have to talk about accumulation and capitalism, colonialism, the desire for money and power. Alvin Tolentino created this beautiful dance. It's called accumulation. And during the process of dancing, his body's like covered with wastes and garbage. And I'm not a political scientist. Again, I'm a theater dude. I'm a theater person, but I'm also interested learning and reading about capitalism and how I can invoke that particular history. I think that this fusion interdisciplinary work and the work that we're doing has to extend in activism, in advocacy for change. What happened with Greta what's her name? Ang hirap eh. Greta na lang, no? Greta is an icon of that breakthrough, of a desire for activism and political will. And that's something that I'm also engaging with my practice and as an art, because I'm kind of also iffy when we talk about politics, right? Because it's highly ideological. But I think it is an important, we have to confront that we need to be political also with our work, with our scholarship, that we have to, whatever that means to you. Because politics is an important voice. It demands change and saying stop, people will die if you continue to do that. Stop, the soil will be intoxicated, whatever. You have to stop accumulating, and that's highly political. And I think that I see this kind of work towards that kind of a collective activism. I'm seeing photos and videos of people really shouting against the war in Gaza. That's an image of activism that I'm also seeing in this kind of climate change. And we have that, right? Meron yan eh. Marami na po yun. Pero nakikita ko, activism has to lead to dialogue and conversation. We have to really, it's beyond art. It's beyond science. It is about change and transformation. So, is that clear? Yeah, activism, I see activism a very important voice and contribution for collective change. But one of the scientists we have here, Jed, what's his name from Soil? Soil, si Jed, was telling me, he's studying production, food production, and he was unpacking to me and telling me that yung chicken na kinakain natin ay isa lang company ang pinanggagalingan. So it's very hegemonized. Isa lang ang nagpuproduce, whether the chicken from Jollibee, from the market, isa lang yun. It's an American producer, am I correct? And it's being held by one powerful producer. What does that mean? It's about greed. Okay? So what do? I think that we need to politicize that, to open a discourse. Kasi if it's only one, ang desire nun is to produce and to produce and to produce and get more money and money and money. And he's saying it will eventually collapse. One great play, Uburwa, it's a French play, and it was a representation of this hungry character, Ubura, o Kin Ubo. He's blinded, and over the time in the play, he's bloated and really growing, and he exploded. There's also another play called The Chairs by Ionesco, and I saw production. It's a message about accumulation and desire for power. Buong space, buong stage na buo ng mga chairs. Na covered na yung human. And eventually what he's saying here is if we continue that desire for power and greed, that the human will eventually die and will be covered by woods. So it's activism and activism and politics are important, and also epistemology, shifting that the human being should not be the center of power. That the human being, for me as an artist, I also see power in the soil. Mm-hmm. I also power in plants. So we have to challenge this idea of the Western idea that only human being is the most powerful in the earth. So I'm trying to stop thinking of eating pig, meat. I can't, kasi ang hirap eh. Pero my professor said, I stopped eating meat because if I eat pig, I have to be ready to be eaten by the pig as well. That's powerful. I think we have to raise in that consciousness as well.
Yeah.
Right?
One last question before we have lunch. Please.
I hope I answer Sir Arijola. Parang, I think it would lead to activism and dialogue.
Yeah. Please.
Hello, good morning po.
Good morning.
I'm Eloise Tolentino po. I'm from BA Communication Arts, major in theater arts. My question is kind of specific because it's about my thesis. So my thesis is about Philippine feminist theater and ecofeminism. So Philippine feminist theater, for the background of our audience, it's mga karanasan ng mga kababain sa ilalim ng kolonyalismo, at ang ecofeminism nagsasaad na may relasyon ang kababaihan sa environment dahil sa oppression na under ng patriarchal na sistema. So my question is, how important it is for us Filipino women to represent the present condition of our environment in terms of colonialismo and the politics that is applied to our environment?
Yeah, good question. My God, this is like going everywhere, no? Now we're talking about gender and feminism. Important question. Later on, Sir Chico will talk about the film later on, To Pick a Flower. I understand also that In science, how many are women in science? One of my questions kay Ma'am Asuncion Raimundo, Ma'am, ilan sa mga academicians ang women? Diba? Yeah. Kulang lalaki sa...
Puro babae.
Puro babae.
Walang nagbubuhat daw sa NAST. Mas
Oo.
marami po ang babae sa NAST.
Maraming babae sa NAST? No.
Hindi rin? Oh.
It's a male-dominated practice. So what do we do with that? We have to celebrate their work. I don't like the word center. Because if you have a word center, there will be
Periphery.
people who will be decentered. But we have to challenge the center by recentering the voices and the works of women. If we have a performance, like this poster, I really wanted a girl. It's in my body, I wanted a woman, I wanted a girl in that poster. Simple like that, right? Because I know everywhere I go, like, women, men. So I think that we have to celebrate. Every time that we think of writing about a play, who do we think? It's almost immediate our characters are male, right? Who do we think of collaborators? Male. I think that we need to recenter female scientists, female voices, female faculty members. Leadership has to change, and we have to install the epistemology of women. I think that's my take here. And in my own practice, every time I have poster, okay, let's have, who are the female actors? Let's do it. Right. So, it's a very gendered world, and we need to deconstruct that too. Thank you for listening with me. It's been long and epic. Oh my God. Chico, Ma'am, what did you do?
I don't know. But we're done.
But
Yeah.
honestly, what did I do in my life that I deserve this? Thank you so much po.
Palakpakan po natin Dr. Dennis D. Gupa, our world expert. Wow. So on behalf of the Chancellor, allow me to award you this certificate and a gift. University of the Philippines, Los Baños Certificate of Appreciation is awarded to Dr. Dennis D. Gupa for successfully delivering a lecture, Why Fusion Between Theater and the Sciences, Interdisciplinarity of Pedagogy, Research and Community Building under the World Expert Lecture Series of the UP System Office of International Linkages, given this 20th day of August 2025 at the REDREC Auditorium, UP Los Baños College, Batong Malake, Los Baños, 4031 Laguna, Philippines, to be signed by the Chancellor himself, Dr. Jose V. Camacho Jr., to be awarded by Professor Emeritus Asuncion K. Raimundo. Palakpakan po ulit natin Dr. Dennis D. Gupa. And this is, dahil feeling ko hindi sustainable yung water bottle mo, meron ditong mas sustainable na water bottle. From the Media and Communication Office. Yes, Sir Vic, please join us. Isama lang po natin si Dr. Victor Tixon as part of our organizers. Dr. Victor Tixon is the one who worked on the wells through the guidance and pressure of AKR. Thank you. All right, let's take a picture and then we will invite all of you please to join us. So please, we invite our friends to join us on stage, ma'am, sirs, please. And as you go out, don't worry, we have prepared lunch for you. Okay? So yon. But as we wait, please everybody, allow us to invite you to this dito na lang sa baba. All right. Kahit po dito lang daw po sa baba. To this afternoon's event. It's a film showing of the film To Pick a Flower by Shireen Senos, no? This is very interesting. Dennis will share with us more this afternoon, 2 p.m. at the Makiling Film Lab at the REDREC Auditorium. So we thank Sam and Cass, no, for this. Sir Dennis here, please. Sir Dennis. And also, this afternoon, 2 documentaries, Bayang Isinumpa and Buhay sa Lawa, will be shown together with the music videos of 1,000 Forests. Yeah, a film produced by College of Forestry and Natural Resources and UP Los Baños. And also, on August 27, please watch In the Wake of the Lake, In the Roar of the Ocean, a theatrical interrogation of water memory, climate crisis, and stewardship. This is for free. 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. at the DL Umali Hall. All right. So, Dr. Dixon, Dr. Tirol, please join us here, ma'am. Din Thea, come here. Din. Yan, kita po kayong lahat. Kita pa, yan. Ma'am Zita. Thank you once again to Radyo DZLB and DDBT for streaming our program so you can rewatch this. We will also re-upload the video on the ULB YouTube page. Okay, let's take a picture. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day ahead of you. Thank you for joining us. See you later. Food is outside, so you can bring it home.